rapidity behind the trunk of a pine. It seemed dark and shaggy, but manlike. In terror, I began to retrace my steps in the direction of the boats. Instantly the figure reappeared, and the mere fact that he was a man somewhat reassured me. And then I remembered my pistol. With new courage, I walked briskly towards him. He threw himself on his knees and held out his clasped hands in supplication. "Who are you?" I asked. "Ben Gunn," he answered. "I'm poor Ben Gunn, I am, and I haven't spoken with a Christian these 3 years." "3 years?" I cried. "Were you shipwrecked?" "Nay, mate," said he. "Marooned." Then he asked my name. "Jim," I told him. "Jim?" says he. "Jim, I've thought it all out in this here lonely island, and I'm bound I'll be good, and I see the way too. And Jim, I'm rich." Now I felt that the poor fellow had gone crazy in his solitude. But he repeated the statement hotly. Then he said, "Now, Jim, you tell me true, that ain't Flint's ship." "It's not Flint's ship, and Flint is dead. But there are some of Flint's hands aboard," and I told him about Silver, and the whole story of our voyage and the predicament in which we found ourselves. And when I had done, he said, "You're a good lad, Jim. Well, you just put your trust in Ben Gunn." His main concern was whether or no the squire would give him fair treatment and some share in the treasure. "I'm sure he would," I cried. "And besides, if we got rid of the others, we should want you to help work the vessel home." "Ah, so you would. Now, I'll tell you what. I were in Flint's ship when he buried the treasure, he and 6 strong seamen. One fine day, up went the signal, and here come Flint by himself in a little boat, and the 6 all dead and buried." Well, some years after, it had been in another ship that Ben Gunn had again sighted the island. He persuaded his shipmates to land and find the treasure. After 12 days searching, the crew had given up and left Ben Gunn marooned with musket, spade and pickaxe to search on alone. In the 3 years he'd been marooned, Ben Gunn had searched, and he had repented the actions of his former life, and he wanted me to tell the squire of his change of heart and his willingness to help us. "Well," I said, "how am I to get on board?" "Ah," said he, "well, there's my boat that I made with my 2 hands. I keep her under the White Rock. We might try that after dark." Just then, all the echoes of the island awoke and bellowed to the thunder of a cannon. "They've begun to fight," I cried. "Follow me!" And I ran towards the anchorage. The cannon shot was followed, after a considerable interval, by a volley of small arms. And then, not a quarter of a mile in front of me, I beheld the Union Jack flutter in the air above a wood. As soon as Ben Gunn saw the colours, he came to a halt and stopped me. "No," said he, "there's your friend, sure enough." He reasoned that Silver would fly the Jolly Roger, the black flag of piracy, and he reckoned my friends were safe in the blockhouse built years earlier by Captain Flint. "Well," said I, "all the more reason that I should hurry on and join my friends." But Ben Gunn wouldn't follow me, until the squire had given his word he'd be well treated. For a good hour to come, cannonballs kept crashing through the woods. After a long detour, I crept down among the shoreside trees onto the low sandy spit that enclosed the anchorage to the east. The sun had just set. The Hispaniola still lay where she had anchored, but the Jolly Roger was flying from her peak. Even as I looked, there came another red flash, the last, and one more round shot whistled through the air. As I rose to my feet, I saw some distance further down the spit an isolated rock, peculiarly white in colour, the white rock of which Ben Gunn had spoken. Then I skirted among the woods until I reached the shoreward side of the stockade. I learned later from Dr. Livesey's journal all that had happened. He and the squire, with the squire's servants, Hunter, Joyce and Tom Redruth, had stayed aboard the Hispaniola with Captain Smollett, while Silver and most of the crew had gone ashore, taking me. Silver, not realizing I had overheard his whole plot, had left behind only 6 of the mutinous crew. It was decided that while the squire and his companions prevented interference from the mutineers, Hunter and the doctor should go ashore with the jolly boat in quest of information. They pulled straight in the direction of the stockade upon the chart, steering so as to put a bend in the coast between them and the 2 pirates guarding the gigs. They'd not gone 100 yards inland when they came on the stockade. On a knoll and enclosing a spring, Flint's men had clapped a stout log house, loopholed for musketry on every side. All round this they'd cleared a wide space, and then the thing was completed by a strong high paling. It was at this moment they heard ringing over the island the cry of a man at the point of death. Thinking the mutineers had murdered me, the doctor returned to the ship. He found the squire white as a sheet, thinking of the harm he had led us to, the good soul. And one of the 6 forecastle hands was little better. Captain Smollett believed it would take little more to bring that man, Grey, over to our side. The doctor settled on a course of action with which the captain agreed. The men had no weapons, so it was a small matter for the squire and the captain, with the help of Redruth, to use their pistols to keep the 6 men covered, whilst the doctor and Joyce made a second trip ashore with more provisions for the blockhouse. Once this was accomplished, Livesey, alone, sculled back to the Hispaniola and took off Captain Smollett and the squire and yet more provisions. Before they left, the seaman Grey did join their party, escaping from the 5 ruffians with only a cut to his cheek. This trip was quite different from any of the others. The captain had dropped all the spare muskets, the powder and balls overboard, but he had forgotten the ship's big brass swivel gun. Israel Hands had been Captain Flint's gunner, so the 5 in the jolly boat were lucky to get ashore alive. Although a shot from the squire wounded one of the mutineers, the little boat sank with all its cargo. Worse still, the shore party was alerted. There was a skirmish as the squire and his men reached the enclosure. One of the mutineers was killed, but Tom Redruth was badly wounded. Poor old fellow. He was the oldest of our party by a score of years, and now it was he that was to die. After a little while of silence, he said he thought somebody might read a prayer, and not long after, without another word, he passed away. Among his stores, the captain had the British colours and a Bible. He had found a longish fir tree lying felled and cleared in the enclosure, and with the help of Hunter he had used this as a flagpole and run up the colours. And as soon as all was over for Tom, he came forward with another flag, and reverently he spread it on the body. It was just then, with a roar and a whistle, that the first round shot passed high above the roof of the log house and plumped far beyond them in the wood. Israel Hands was using our flag as a marker. All through the evening they kept thundering away, but though the aim improved, no damage was done. And it was then that I reached the stockade. I had soon told my story. Then Captain Smollett divided us into watches, the Doctor, Grey and I for one, the Squire, Hunter and Joyce upon the other. Before supper, we buried old Tom in the sand. Then, when we had eaten, the 3 chiefs got together in a corner to discuss our prospects. Our best hope was to kill off the buccaneers every time we had a crack at them, until they either surrendered or ran away with the Hispaniola, leaving us to wait for the squire's friend with the relief ship. Besides that, we had an able ally, rum. We could hear them roaring and singing late into the night. The next morning, Silver came to make terms, only now he called himself Captain Silver, after what he called our desertion. Something had disturbed the buccaneers. In their drunken sleep, one of their men had been killed. Ben Gunn's work, I guessed. Now I reckoned we had only 14 enemies to deal with. Silver's offer was our lives for the treasure map, but Captain Smollett would have none of this. After all, none of Silver's men had the skills to navigate the ship, and our position in the stockade was strong. Silver left, and we prepared to fight. There was a round score of muskets for the 7 of us, and the cutlasses lay ready. Dr. Livesey was to stay by the door, Hunter was to take the east side, and Joyce the west. Mr. Trelawney and Grey took the long back wall. Captain Smollett and I were to stand by to reload the muskets. An hour passed. Then suddenly Joyce whipped up his musket and fired. The report had scarcely died away ere it was repeated and repeated from every side of the enclosure. Suddenly, with a loud huzzah, a little cloud of pirates leapt from the woods on the north side and ran straight on the stockade. The boarders swarmed over the fence like monkeys. The squire and Grey fired again and yet again. 3 men fell, but of these 1 was on his feet again and instantly disappeared among the trees. 4 had made good their footing inside our defences, while from the wood 7 or 8 men kept up a fire on the log house. In a moment, the head of Job Anderson, the boatswain, appeared at the middle loophole. "At 'em, all hands, he roared. At the same moment, another pirate wrenched Hunter's musket from his hands, and with one stunning blow laid the poor fellow senseless on the floor. Meanwhile, a third appeared suddenly in the doorway and fell with his cutlass on the doctor. "Out, lads, out and fight him in the open." "Cutlasses!" cried the captain. I snatched up a cutlass and dashed out of the door. Right in front, the doctor sent his assailant sprawling on his back. "Round the house, lads, round the house!" cried the captain. Mechanically I obeyed, and with my cutlass raised, I ran round the corner of the house. Next moment, I was face to face with Anderson. He roared aloud, and his hanger went up above his head. I leapt to one side, and missing my foot in the soft sand, rolled headlong down the slope. In this breath of time, the fight was over, and the victory was ours. Gray, following close behind me, had cut down the big boatswain ere he had time to recover from his lost blow. Another had been shot at a loophole. A third, as I had seen, the doctor disposed of at a stroke. The fourth was now clambering out again with the fear of death upon him. The doctor and Gray and I ran full speed for shelter. Hunter lay beside his loophole, stunned. Joyce by his shot through the head. "The captain's wounded," said Mr. Trelawney. "Have they run?" asked Mr. Smollett. "All that could," returned the doctor. "But there's 5 of them will never run again." "5," cried the captain. "5 against 3, it leaves us 4 to 9. That's better odds than we had at starting." The mutineers were soon only 8 in number, for we learned later that the man shot by Mr. Trelawney on board the schooner died that